he just did, and I'm always impressed by it. So, another, hand of claps for, Mohan for doing this and setting it up. So, Mohan, Shankara was just telling me down, he says, this was the Sehwag fireworks, what do we do next? And even in the test match inning, this, how the Sehwag plays, you just already played that inning. Uh, so what we want to do today is, we heard, Mohan say about, how the speed of transformation in the digital world is happening. And there are a lot of multiple global players, Indian players are part of that transformation. And in some ways, we have to actually make our presence even felt more from India in that whole digital transformation that is happening. What we want to do now is, we have, the two great leaders from two very big companies, Shankara from Kyndryl. And I was just trying to read before I came to the session on what does Kyndryl want to do, from the digital perspective. And, I just read some of their work and I thought, they are trying, or they are the doctors for the digital world. So they are trying to keep the health of the infrastructure going in the digital world. So that's the role, they are, trying to play. And Infosys, I think we all know Infosys very well. Gautam is here from there. And, if you read Infosys, when I was trying to read, okay, what all they do, I was trying to think, oh, this would be the digital services, innovation they would talk about. One of the things that struck me the most was what Infosys is trying to do is to amplify the human potential in the world through whatever they do. And Gautam, correct me if that is not right, and if I read something different. So you have the two companies. One is the doctors of the infrastructure world. One trying to do the amplification of the human potential, both in the technology side of it. So I'm intrigued by that, and I want to know, so what have they done, these companies individually have done, as far as digital transformation goes within their companies, so that we can learn from it and see if we are behind or if we can take advantage of their learnings. And also look at what they have done for their customers, more importantly, because they are in the business of making money, they are in the business of helping customers, amplifying human potential. So why don't I start with you, Shankara, if you, introduce yourself, say a little more. I like your title very much, so say a little bit more about your title, and then tell us about, what transformation you have gone through.
Thank you, and very good morning to you all. My name is Sankara Srinivasan. I am the Vice President for Kyndryl, managing the Customer Innovation Center. Right? It's a global services that we perform out here. And we, as Jitendra rightly said, are the doctors of the infrastructure. And pretty much make sure that the availability of the platforms that we manage are 7/24. The challenges of managing 7/24 we'll talk a little later, but I want to make sure that it is understood that we are a startup. We spun off last year as an independent company. It's a $19 billion startup, having 90,000 people supporting pure managed infrastructure services globally, and about 30,000 people supporting the infrastructure services in India. And we take pride in saying that we support the infrastructure services for Bangalore Airport, which something got released recently, right? And 70% of the World Bank's infrastructure is supported by Kyndryl, and we want to make sure that we are in the same position in India as well, and as we continue to grow here. Thank you.
Thanks, Shankara. And I forgot to mention before I pass on to Gautam, the two gentlemen who are sitting here, 500,000 people together in their organizations are trying to do digital transformation globally. So that is the kind of an impact these two companies are trying to create around the world. And they are serving most of the top Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. So Gautam, to you about some of the things that you can talk about digital transformation over the last one decade.
Sure. Thanks, Jitendra. So I'm Gautam Khanna. I head the app modernization practice or custom app development modernization practice for Infosys globally. As part of the mandate that we help clients modernize legacy systems to newer technologies like cloud, using open source, DevOps, and low-code, no-code platforms. By the size of global SIs, it's not very big. It's about 500 people, but they are all subject matter experts and solution architects. And we do look at capability building and capacity building across the length and breadth of Infosys on some of these technologies like cloud and low-code, no-code platforms. I've been with Infosys 25 years. So I have seen Infosys grow from 150 times actually, from whatever, 2,000 people to 300,000 plus people. And I've seen the transformation that we have done ourselves within the organization over the last 2.5 decades. So I had a little story to share with the audience. When I turned 40, my wife gifted me a very expensive pen and thought that I'll use it at work, it'll be really nice. Honestly speaking, for the last 8 to 9 years, yeah, that does age or give you how old I am. I have never used that pen. And interestingly, for all the work that I have to do, any approvals, any interactions with the business processes inside Infosys, I can do it on my mobile phone. Pretty much everything, right? The fact is that I've grown old and now I read reading glasses, so I may need a laptop for something that I have to go and read in detail. But that's the level of digital transformation that we have in Infosys. So we eat our own dog food. In fact, we are taking some of the platforms that we have developed within the company, and I'll get to 2-3 of the interesting ones, to our clients. The first one is on the entire talent supply chain. So in the last 18 months, there have been about 1 million people who have applied to Infosys, right? Now, it does get winnowed, like the resumes have to be shortlisted, interviews have to be done, and then final offers have to be rolled out to whatever 40, 50, 60,000 people. Then those talents have to be onboarded. So virtual onboarding, there is nothing physical because of COVID and otherwise. So we have onboarded close to 80,000 talents virtually, right? Then when these talents get absorbed within projects, you have to match skills to projects. All of this is again done using AI, not just rule-based matching, but there is adjacent skills matching and whatnot. And we have cut down the staffing time down by 50%. So this is on the talent supply chain per se. The second interesting area is on engagement. So we have this app, we call it InfiMe, and we do AI-based nudges. Based on my behavior, I will be given alerts and nudges on what to do, what not to do on the app. There are 200,000 nudges that are passed on to employees every day, personalized, hyper-personalization, n equal to 1, right? So this is on the talent side. Since Mohan is in the audience, I can quote a few numbers on the finance side. I hope he doesn't ask me any questions on that. So we have about 85% of the invoices now being done straight through processing, and the payments being done without a human actually putting eyes to it and handling it. The second is on the bank reconciliation. The bank reconciliation, all transactions are done, 99.9% of the transactions are reconciled with a turnaround time of 1 day. So that's on the finance side. And I'll close with something on sustainability and data center modernization. In the last 1.5 years, our infrastructure division has worked on optimizing the power consumption of our data centers, and we have saved 1 megawatt from just the data center modernization that we have done. So that should give you an idea about Infosys and what we are doing. It's just a piece of it. but some of the salient things I thought I would share with the audience. Thanks, Jitendra.
Thanks, Gautam. I think that was very insightful. And I'm sure audience would have some questions because this is a good learnings. We can take it into our organizations. So if you have any questions, just be ready. I can call in between if you raise your hand and you can ask a question. Shankara, some of the good customer examples, if you can give, on how the customers have benefited from some of the infrastructure transformations that you have provided.
Right. So it typically helps when the transformation goes through multiple phases: the process, the domain, the culture. Right. So the customer's experience and managing a customer innovation center in India, it typically means that work was done on site at some point of time, and it has to move here. So the processes change because of first the inhibition of sending work to India. Right? It's very common for countries like US and UK to send work to India because they are mature. But at a global delivery center, we get work from around the globe. And there are countries that have not sent data outside their country or work outside the country. So we have to establish the process first, show them how mature we are. The advantage of Kyndryl is that we have 30 years of core infrastructure experience, right? When we start showcasing the experience with client relevance of what we do, they typically understand that this company has the solid backing of the process that has been defined. Then the domain knowledge of what it is. And domain for us sometimes is skills, right? So you can, today we are we have compartmentalized ourselves as practices. We have bought hyperscalers as one, we have mainframe as one, we have security as one, we have identity and access management as one, we have network as one, and we have service desk and support as one. And on top of it, we have the Kyndryl Consult that oversees all these things to make sure that the customer experience is being met. So when a customer starts talking to us from a global perspective, the ideas that we start sharing is trying to improve their infrastructure, not maintain status quo. No customer today wants a company to start taking their work status quo and manage, but to say how do we improve it. So the customer experience that we want to share is to say we move from proactive work to reactive work to predictive insights. That's something that we want to go showcase. And this is where we see the advantage of managing infrastructure. The infrastructure's challenge is it does not know Diwali, Pongal, Christmas. Things can crash. And this is the last quarter of the year is where majority of the countries globally make their maximum revenue. Right? The Thanksgiving sale, the Christmas sale is where most of the happenings are. So your retail business is cranking up. Your banking sector is cranking up. This is where majority of the work happens. So our talent here in India is there to support. They are the backbone to support the infrastructure. And this is the experience that we share with the customers.
Great. Yeah, I agree. I think the infrastructure does not know the holidays and no breaks there. I'll switch a little bit. I have two questions. Let me just get, one thing clarified and then we'll move on to some questions. So Gautam, now, yes, you told, some of the parts that digital transformation, speed of it, what has happened in Infosys, some of the customers. There are a lot of youngsters, sitting in the audience, in addition to some of the industry folks here. So a question of, if you have to look at next 10 years, next decade, what are some of the trends that you are seeing in addition to or complementing what Mr. Mohandas Pai already spoke about, that you think you are preparing yourself for, and you think the industry and all the youngsters sitting at the back should prepare for? So if you can just speak to it, we'll take two questions and then we'll come back to Shankara.
Thanks, Jitendra. So the thing closest to my heart, and I can talk about a lot of things, but what I do myself, right? I'm almost 50 years of age. I went back to maths, went from the grounds up, and tried to understand AI and ML technologies, right? I think everybody in the audience, young or old, can do that. You have to have some working knowledge of these things, and it shouldn't be a black box to you if you are in this field, if you're in this space. The second is understanding cloud as a platform, right? what it brings, how it works. You don't have to become an architect, but you still should have a working knowledge of it. So me personally, I've spent about 2,000 hours in the last 2.5 years on Coursera and all these platforms, learning about it and doing certifications and validating the knowledge that I have. If I can do it, I'm sure some of you youngsters can spend a whole lot more and be a lot more skilled and hands-on on these technologies. See, that's the one thing that I would give as advice is to reskill and refashion yourself and repurpose your skills for the next 10 to 15 years.
Thanks, Gautam. We'll take a question. Is there a mic that can be given to the audience? So any of you?
Hello, good morning. This is to Mr. Sankara. No, I was just sharing my concern with Mr. Mohan Das Rupai. It is about the innovation. Innovation should not be an innocent output of ignorance. Are you suggesting something as a center which can admonish you, tell, okay, this qualifies for innovation or this does not qualify? Because we don't want to waste our effort and come at finally realizing that it is something like reinventing the wheel. So is there any proposal or is there any setup now already in place? Can you highlight on that?
Fantastic question, and thank you. I'm going to use this as a branding for our stall here. If you have, please take time to go see our Kindle Bridge stall. Kindle Bridge is one of platforms that Kindle has built, and this is purely on innovation, primarily leveraging AI ops, and artificial intelligence is primarily dependent on core data that has been supplied. So when we manage the infrastructure, we not just manage the infrastructure and its logs, but also the application and its related logs as well. With the platform, we are able to go give a predictive insight of where the issues could be. So gone are the days when you can go tell a customer that you have an LPAR that will have 10 times an outage in a given year. The ask from the customer side is how do you go and minimize it to the max, how do you bring the outages down? So the Kindle Bridge has been formed. The way we drive automation is to make sure that every server will have less than one outage. And that's where the innovation concept is. How do we do that? So where we go, Mr. Mohandas talked about repetitive, mundane jobs, right? We want to make sure that some of these mundane jobs are being automated. And a country like India, there is no fear factor of, oh, if I automate it, I don't have a job, right? There is automation leads to your elevation to the next level because you automatically qualify for something. So we encourage our technicians to automate the work that they perform. And the assets that are being developed is where we use it for our AI ops, and this is being leveraged by Kindle Bridge. An automation that has been built to support end-to-end infrastructure with pure automation in place to minimize human error and maximize customer experience.
Okay, we'll take one more question and then we'll come back to Gautam and Shankar.
Good morning to everybody in the panel, and my question is directed to the VP Global Head of Modernization Practice of Infosys. So, sir, you already know we all started in the past with the practice of Gurukul, and later these digital transformation has come into picture. So, my question is basically, don't you think this digital transformation has become an actual toll on seeing real talent and human relationships between employee and an employer? Like for instance, you said during COVID, all your hiring has all happened through a digital platform. Even interviews had happened of a lot of companies like Byju's, Infosys through a digital platform. But after all this hiring, the firing rate has been really higher than the hiring rate due to these digital interviews and digital, take-ins. So I think actual interview face to face would give a more lifespan to a candidate who is working in the company, and as well as a company for it to individually grow rather than this digital transformation. So don't you think we are taking more advantage of digital transformation in all the domains which should not be in real sense? Thank you.
So that's a fair question. I can only comment about Infosys, and I can assure you that those rates are nowhere comparable, point number one. But your concern is valid, right? So when you conduct interviews in a digital medium, are there chances of candidate fraud or you not being able to, adequately test the skill of the individual? So there are ways around it. And I completely agree that there can be false positives, or like rather the fact that you may end up hiring people that may not possess the skills. But I can assure you, it's much less, much less than you would think, right? What do we do to do that? See, the questions that are asked are more scenario based. Who's coming for the interview and who finally turns up when they join the company, there are lots of checks and balances. I cannot go into the details of all of that, but believe me, it is, because we have done it for so many thousands of people, we have the whole process to back. I can't say that nobody can falsify it, but it's extremely problematic. If you have the kind of brains to be able to do that, you might as well have the brains to study and be skilled for it, right? That's what I would like to say.
Okay, I'll just switch a little bit and come back to the audience. See, there was an innovation question came up, and that is triggering a thought. What I would like to learn from both of you, you can start, Chris. So how are you managing in big companies like yours, the innovation to really thrive and come out and become really useful for the company and for your clients and society? And talk to us about internal and the external, how you're combining the innovations coming from both the sides.
Correct. So modernization is very important for us, right? So innovation is the focus where we want to go make, and this is where we leverage our partner networks. Our association with Microsoft, Google, AWS, and all the other partners is helping us to go into the modernization. How does it help, right? So pretty much we are into core infrastructure space. Infrastructure does not drive journey into cloud, right? It is a known fact, and this was one of the challenges. We always thought we drive things to cloud. We don't. It is the application that drives the journey to cloud. So we wanted to make sure that we partner and start looking into innovation. And one thing that we really understood was not many clients were ready to transform, right? We can talk about the next 10 years and how technology is going to move, but there are going to be companies that are going to be standing still and where they are in the next 5-7 years. I spent quite a number of years in the US. I'll just give you a little story. 14 years when I spent in the US, in 94 when I landed, from 94 to 98 there was a skill for you build graphical user interfaces. But then the focus changed from 96 to year 2000 on mainframe modernization or mainframe conversion, right? The Y2K issue. At that time, the core discussion that happened was the mainframes would be gone. It would be obsolete. The mindset was setting that it would not exist. But 22 years later, we still have the mainframe practice going stronger. We have boomers retiring. We are building the practice in here. The innovation that is helped in modernizing mainframe is now continuing, right? So now we are working with our partners with Google and AWS to make sure how do we modernize mainframe applications into making sure that they continue to support leveraging the existing infrastructure. And again, innovation is needed, and the next 10 years is going to be very critical. But I got to come back and say there would be a majority of folks that continue to stay put, just keeping upgrading because of the economy scales that are in there. People always think moving to hyperscaler is going to give them something there. the consult business that we do typically starts looking into saying whether that application and infrastructure is going to give them the benefit of moving into a hyperscaler, right? Moving towards technology does not mean automatically financial benefit or performance benefit. Sometimes it's a wrong decision. So we are there to advise, and this is one kind of an innovation that we want to go to. Look into customers' architecture, innovate on what is needed for them and what is not, right? Give them the right advice at the right time.
Okay, great, thanks. So last, if you close with your comments on it, because we will come to the end of our time. So Gautam, again, the innovation that you are driving from inside and from externally, how are you able to combine that and create value?
So let me start from within the company, and this goes back to the question, I think the first question that was asked on innovation, ROI, and how do we ensure that we don't make too many investments on an innovation that won't go far. So the idea is to fail fast, fail early, right? And how do we have grassroots innovation within the organization? So we ran a campaign, an initiative where we went to the last mile, the individual, right? We called it Be the Navigator, and it was an initiative that ran for 3 years to inculcate that culture of innovation across the organization. And the idea was to create hackathons, to give investments on ideas that come through projects, because finally at the end of the day we are a project-based organization. How do they get investments to try out things, to experiment, and then take those ideas and monetize it with the customers, and in the end generating IP at times for the organization, which we can then broad base and take across the company. So initiatives like these that foster innovation, but also provide the incentive, the visibility to employees, and give them the resources to be able to do it. So that's inside. From the outside in perspective, we work with the startup ecosystem, and we have looked at 2,500 plus startups, and we have active partnerships with, I think, about 200, 250, which is growing rapidly. We call it the Infosys Innovation Network, and also a very vibrant partner ecosystem that goes from companies in the tech space that are maybe $30, $50 million all the way up till $200 billion corporations, right, like Microsoft or AWS. So we engage with those partners to create IP innovation, joint IP innovation, and take it to our mutual clients. I mean, that's my short answer.
So thanks, Gautam. Thanks, Sankara. I think we are coming close to end of our time, so we'll close it. But I just want to end with some of the innovations, some of the transformations that Kyndryl, Infosys, other companies also talked about. I just want to say from Global Foundries perspective, the company I work for, and I'm heading it in India. We provide the innovation and the technology and the chips that Mr. Mohan was talking about, so that all of that digital transformation can happen. So I just want to say at the end, if there are companies here, fabulous companies, other tech companies who want to use some of the experience and the technology that Global Foundry has, we are very welcome to work with you guys to make sure you can do the best for your clients, for your companies, and in general the overall tech ecosystem in the country, right? So I just welcome all of you guys to write me a note if you want to take support of Global Foundries, right? With that, I think we'll close the session. We are right on time here as far as our time was concerned, and I thank once again Gautam from Infosys, Sankara from Kyndryl for very, very insightful information. And we will be around, so if some of you guys want to talk them more, you can connect with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, JC.
Big round of applause to the eminent panelists. I request the chair, Mr. Jitendra Chaddah, to kindly present tokens of gratitude to the panel.